Hey guys, Bored Now back with you, and on this video I will be making my return to the Halloween franchise. First time in a while I've done one of these films. So today I will be talking about Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers from 1988, and it's directed by Dwight H. Little, and it once again stars Donald Pleasence, reviving his role as Loomis. No Jamie Lee Curtis this time, which I'll talk about in a minute. And we also have a very young Danielle Harris making what must have been one of her very first appearances on screen. And she has a big part in it. So I'll get into the plot in a moment. Of course, I started these films in October as part of my month-long horror marathon. I did the first three then, so you can find all three of those reviews up on the channel. And I will post them in the description for this video as well. So I thought it was more than overdue me going back to the Halloween franchise. Before I get started though, I would like to dedicate this video to Jack, who just had his birthday actually as I'm posting this or recording this. So yeah, happy birthday Jack. This review goes out to you. I hope you enjoy it. And so basically Halloween 4, as I said, Return of Michael Myers, it had the tricky job of resetting the franchise. Did I say franchise? Sounded like French fries. Franchise. What we now tend to call a reboot. That's what this film sort of had to do, and that's because off the back of the experiment of Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, which is just a batshit insane film. On the back of that not working out and bombing at the box office, then that's why they had to revert back to type, and they decided, hey, do you know what was missing from Season of the Witch? Quite a lot of things you could argue, but certainly one of them, and the main thing was, of course, Michael Myers himself. So that's why they decided to return back to what brought them to the dance, so to speak, what was so successful in the first place. But yeah, Halloween Season of Witch, that's quite an experience. You certainly have to check that film out. I think it certainly falls into that so bad it's kind of great in territory. It is a guilty pleasure of a film. And of course it's where they had the idea of doing an anthology type thing, where you have a different story each time, which I quite like the idea of actually, but as I said, because it didn't really perform that well at the box office, that's why they decided to bring Michael Myers back and go back to a more basic horror slasher type film. So this film is set 10 years after the events of the original film, and it sort of just works into it, this thing that Michael somehow managed to survive the fire, as did Loomis, who, for those of you who saw Halloween 2 know, then he basically sacrificed himself to take out Michael and to save Laurie. So 10 years on, Michael once again escapes and heads for his hometown of Haddonfield. And the twist this time is that he is targeting the Jamie character played by Danielle Harris, who we find out quickly is Laurie Strode's daughter. Now, one thing that's a bit shaky is what exactly happened to Laurie. She's not in this film, and I think it's fair to assume that's probably because Jamie Lee Curtis didn't want to come back for a fourth Halloween film. At this point, I mean late 80s, she was really a made star. She'd obviously got her break in the first Halloween film, was in the first couple, and since then she'd had, more big movie roles, including was it Trading Places? Yeah, pretty sure it was Trading Places. One or two other things. So she was kind of a made star at this point. So that's my guess, and she didn't want to return for this Halloween. But it is a bit unclear in the actual film. It's certainly, I think you're meant to assume that she's dead, but how she died, I don't know, because obviously 10 years previous she was a teenager, so not particularly old. But it never makes that clear. But she's gone, she's out of the picture, and Jamie has been adopted. And she has like an adopted sister, Rachel, who is kind of the other big character in the film. And she is the one who's given the responsibility of looking after Jamie, and once again it's Halloween night, and at first there's a bit of tension there where Rachel doesn't want to look after her because she has a big date with her boyfriend. It's sort of funny because she's kind of being all serious about saying, well, tonight's the night where he might commit to me, and I don't know, she's like 16, 17 and she's talking like this about a date, but whatever, But then you can tell there's a bit of a bond between her and Jamie, because then she apologises to her for being uptight and agrees to take a trick or treating, and you see that bond. But the plot is obviously Michael is back in town, and he slowly makes his way through the town and is now hunting Jamie. Jamie becomes the target in this film. And at the same time, Loomis, once he gets wind of this, is obviously making his way to Haddonfield. There's a point where he tries to stop Michael at a gas station, and that doesn't quite work out. And so that's kind of the plot. And I don't mind too much, actually, them giving this like blood connection once again, with Jamie being the daughter of Laurie, and that being Michael's motivation. It at least gives this new film some focus. So do I like Halloween 4? I'd say mostly. I think it's a solid watch. I think, considering how difficult it was at this point to go back and reboot the whole thing, I think they do a solid job of it. I think you get some good horror moments, you get some good kills, which I'll talk a bit about. One particularly good kill, which I'll highlight. And I think in the first half of the film, you don't actually see too much of Michael Myers, and that does a good job in protecting him. But it's actually in the last half of the film where it comes alive. I think it's a film of two halves. I think there's some when it just focuses on the basic horror stuff in the second half, and it's really quite simplistic, but they kind of rack up the tension. Then actually it's a very entertaining horror movie once you get to that. And you've got obviously Loomis back and on good form, and you've got pretty good Michael Myers in this film. It's obviously not top drawer like in the original film. A different actor plays him in this one, by the way. It's not Nick Castle, so that could be part of it, but it's still pretty good. He's still convincing, and as I said, you do get some good kills. So it's a solid film. I think the problem is that first half of the film does drag quite a lot. I think you do get some cheesy moments, some pretty bad dialogue. You get some kind of forced drama, which just drags the pacing down, I think. So the stuff with Rachel and her boyfriend is just kind of teen melodrama, which it does actually pay off in a way later on, but it still feels quite forced, and it wasn't particularly entertaining. And I think that's the other thing. I think like her boyfriend, I forget his name, something like was it Blaine, something like that. But he's just a cardboard like cut out of this kind of nice, apparently nice guy who's actually a bit sort of jerky and just kind of a horny sort of teen. And yeah, there's nothing to those characters. Like him and his friends, they hang out in like this costume store where Jamie and Rachel go at one point, and there's just nothing that entertaining or interesting about them. They're very sort of generic. And I think that's the problem, is you either have to make them interesting so you kind of get into their characters and like root for them, or you have to go the other way and just make them so ridiculous and silly and give them some entertaining dialogue. And the film does neither. Another thing I'll say is that I think, although Danielle Harris, we now see her as like this great sort of screen queen, I think now, or in this film, she actually isn't very good. She's there's some melodramatic moments involving her that doesn't help. So you get this idea of her having Michael Myers on the brain, him appearing to her in dreams. Some of those scenes are better than others. There's this one where early in the film where she has a dream where he appears to her in her bedroom, and you actually get several different Michael Myers come out, and that's quite a nice little jump moment. And the idea that he's kind of haunting her, like, I think what the film does is it presents and it plays with like the myth of Michael Myers, the legend. There's another scene where because it's Halloween, there's actually people dressing up as Michael Myers just to play pranks and to mess with their heads. So we see them scaring like Jamie and Rachel, and like the sheriff gives them like a talking to. But there's something quite eerie about that, because that kind of plays true now in real life, and this film playing with this was almost ahead of its time, really, because you do get kind of sickos. I mean, obviously it's quite cool to dress as like an iconic thing for Halloween, and I'm not, obviously there's nothing wrong with that, but I think to actually scare little kids and to do it sort of like a prank is obviously not on. And obviously it's different because in the real world, where when you dress as Michael Myers, it's like you're dressing as a fictional thing. But obviously in the world of the film, where he's a real character, it's who committed real crimes. Yeah, that's a different matter. But I think you can see how scenes like that predicted certain modern like culture. So they play with the myth and legend of Michael Myers, which I quite like. But yeah, there are some melodramatic moments with Jamie. There's another scene in the store later where she just has a freak out because she thinks she sees him. And I think it's scenes like that where the direction is a little bit rough, and it could have been partly how she was directed, but that did play very cheesy, that particular scene in the store. So although we now think of Danielle Harris as a really solid actress, kind of a horror icon now, but back in this film, she's not very good. Maybe very inexperienced at this point. Could have been the direction. So there are some melodramatic moments in the film, some like rough, like edited and directed scenes. And as I said, some of the teen drama is yeah, just laid on a bit thick and not very convincing. You could have lost it, and the film wouldn't have lost anything. I think some things also just feel a bit like retread and don't really serve much purpose. Another example, I think, is the stuff where like the residents of the town just take things into their own hands when they hear about Michael Myers on the loose, and they decide. There's this interesting thing where Loomis mentions that the police in the town are actually understaffed, so actually this might be the only way to stop him. Which I kind of like, actually, but the problem is then with the residents acting vigilante, that's actually an idea they used in Halloween 2. Now they take it further here, but the problem is it's pretty obvious then they're never going to be able to stop Michael, because it's obviously going to come down to like the big sort of standoff between him, Rachel and Jamie. So it's just very telegraphed that they're not going to be the ones to take him down, and as a result it just feels like needless sort of characters, because, well, at the end of the film, which I'll talk a bit about, but they play a part in that. But again, it's just very telegraphed that then it's going to be setting the plot up for something else. So moments like that I thought were pretty weak, pretty lame. Loomis once again is on good form. He has some really hammy lines, and Donald Pleasence does a great job of selling the situation, selling the threat of Michael Myers. I sort of like then he doesn't appear at the start of the film when they're like transferring him between places. You actually get like these other like doctors who are kind of goofy, kind of cheesy, and one of them makes a point of saying how Loomis couldn't be here because he's like on another sort of assignment or something. So that actually does a good job of like selling Loomis, and the fact that when he shows up it's actually like the real deal. He's the one who has this history with Michael. He's the one who can potentially stop him. But yeah, they do a good job of building up the threat of Michael. And another thing, I mean, just talking about the younger characters, I do like enjoy the relationship with Rachel and with Jamie. Rachel's quite a likable character. So those scenes with them together, I think, are good. They're solid. I did get quite into their relationship. I think the problem might be then the film jumps around a lot at the beginning in the first half, so you maybe don't get enough focused on them because it's going off to other things. So it's maybe at the end of the film, as I said, where you really get into that stuff, where it's like a bit more focused. So I'll talk about some of the kills, because the kills are pretty good in this film, one in particular. So we get the one like really early when Michael escapes, where he kills like the doctors in like the back of like the ambulance. and he literally like pokes the guy in the eye, but he sticks his finger right up into his face, so it's quite a cool little fleshy effect. And then later on, he throws like this guy into like electrics or like pylon sort of thing. So that's not a bad one. It's like the guy fixing like, because there's problems with the lines in the area. And when he sees Michael, he just thinks it's like someone dressing up for Halloween or something. And Michael just throws him and he electrocutes. But the best kill of the film, and in my opinion, one of the best kills of this whole franchise, is later on in the house. So we get down to this core sort of like premise at the end where they're all holed up in this house, and it's the local sheriff's house, and it's his daughter who's in there with not her boyfriend, but actually Rachel's boyfriend. So they've had a fight because Rachel can't spend the night with him because she has to look after Jamie, and he's kind of being that stereotypical jerky male of like slasher movies. So lo and behold, he goes off and sleeps with the attractive Kelly, the daughter of the local sheriff, and they're in there together. And one thing that made me laugh about Kelly is she has this shirt that she's wearing that says it's something like "Cops do it by the book" or something like that. So I'm assuming that's her father. So her father actually has some merchandise kind of representing cops. So she obviously solidarity and all. She wears it to support the pops. So there you have it. So that's a pretty funny detail. But yeah, we get this teen drama, as I said, where she sleeps with him, and she's pretty awful because later on there's a conversation with her and Rachel, and Kelly almost tries to justify it, because at first I thought she was going to be quite sympathetic with Rachel and at least plead ignorance, because she kind of goes into this speech about how I didn't know he was your boyfriend, and Rachel like counters with, you knew, you just didn't care. So then that's when Kelly gets defensive, but it's kind of where you see how awful she is, because she then says, look, I've got to do what's best for me. So she tries to excuse basically sleeping with another girl's boyfriend. And she's just awful. And I think what the film is doing is setting her up to be like killed. And oh boy, what a kill it is, because Michael was disposed of this other cop, and Rachel sees like his face and doesn't realise it's Michael, and he's in a rocking chair and he gets up from it and he impales her, but he impales her with the rifle, so he doesn't shoot her with it. Oh no, that's not enough. He literally impales her with a rifle, and it's awesome. It's a great kill. It's surely the highlight of the film. So one of the best kills, I think, of all the Halloween movies is the gun, using the gun to impale Kelly. It's just such a physical, cool looking kill. Very original. I absolutely love that scene. So even if the rest of this film was really bad, it would be worth it for that one kill. As I said, it is the back half of the film that works really well, where it's all the action's all compressed in this house. So the focus is Michael going after Rachel, and Kelly's gone through some other people. Loomis and the sheriff have actually gone out looking for him at this point. And you get this other cool scene. There's a nice sort of character-like moment for the boyfriend as well. Brody, his name is. I've just seen him, Brody. That's the name of the boyfriend. So a very 80s jerky sort of name for the boyfriend. But he actually goes out on a high, to be fair, because he sacrifices himself to protect Rachel and Jamie, because he actually confronts Michael and is brutally killed. I think he's like choked to death or something, but fair play, he actually goes out on a heroic note. And then the chase is on. They go up on the roof, and Rachel again does the right thing. She lowers Jamie down to the floor as Michael is coming after them. But Michael then catches up with her. He's like trying to stab her with like a knife up on this roof, so it's really awkward. She's like dodging it, and there's some good stunt work here actually, some good physicality as well up on this roof. It looks pretty damn good. And Rachel drops to the floor, and the film makes it look like she's actually been killed landing, because she does appear to be at least unconscious, but Jamie certainly thinks that she's dead because she like runs away. So then the chase is on, and Loomis catches up with her, and they go to a high school. So you get Michael pursuing them in the high school, and that's when the town, like the vigilante residents show up. Oh, sorry, I've got that wrong. Actually, Rachel comes along and saves them as Michael attacks them. So a nice moment for Rachel. Sort of a swerve if you thought she was dead. But then the residents show up, and they decide to take the girls away, because he's not dead at this point. They know they're not, but they're actually easily persuaded, because Rachel actually persuades them that, you know, he's too dangerous, don't take the chance. And it's actually them when they say, you know, she's right, we're not paid for this, the local sheriff and police are, so we'll leave the dangerous stuff to them, which is a convenient change of tune. But they decide to take Rachel and Jamie out of town where it's safe. So they're transporting in, and this is what I was talking about earlier, where it's kind of on the nose and a bit cliched. Then Michael's going to catch up with them, because he appears at the back of the truck, and he runs through a bunch of them going after Jamie and Rachel. And Rachel does some pretty cool driving with Michael on top of the stuff, on top of the truck. And he goes flying off. They go crashing into the side of the road, and eventually the police shoot him down. So that's a little bit of a lame kind of end, if you like, to Michael in this film, because it just a bit of an action type scene. They just all like shoot him lots of times. It's a little weak considering the build-up, but the actual ending is a neat little twist, and quite a cool moment actually, which is something I wish they'd gone with for the next film, but they don't really build on it from what I can remember. And it's a callback to the first film, where Jamie, she's obviously in a Halloween costume, and she's been through this whole ordeal, and so she's upstairs like having a shower, and obviously the police are around with like the foster parents and with Rachel, and Jamie kills the foster mother. She like stabs her, because she goes up to check on her and she kills her, and they hear the scream, and Rachel kind of rushes to the bottom of the stairs first, but then Loomis comes around. And what I like about how Loomis reacts here is that he thinks Michael's in the house. He thinks, because Michael's still alive, he thinks, and he's there, and he's come to get Jamie. So his instincts kick in, and he's got the gun, and he points it, and it's actually the sheriff who comes along and takes it away. And I love again that the hammy performance from Presence. He's like, no, no, no. It's so great. But yeah, the sheriff cuts him off, and then the camera cuts to Jamie. She's in the costume, she's got the knife. Obviously she's killed the foster mum, and it's like history repeating itself, because that's exactly what young Michael Myers did all those years ago to his sister. So they're basically saying, yeah, the experience has traumatized Jamie so much that she is becoming like her uncle, Michael Myers. So it's a cool little ending. I really like that ending, and it potentially is setting up a future. If you say Michael is dead, it's potentially setting up Jamie as the new Michael. But as I said, they don't really go with that from what I can remember, which is disappointing, because that could have been an interesting way to go. But that's the film. That's Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Overall, I think it's a pretty cool film. A solid horror film, especially in the second half. The last 20-30 minutes, I think, is pretty well done. Some good kills, like I said. I think, considering how difficult it is to reset the franchise, I think they do a solid job, but there are some clunky moments, and the first half I thought did drag. I think it's the second half where it really gets into gear. But a solid watch. I don't think it's the best sequel, and there are other better Halloween sequels coming up, which I'll talk about. But as far as rating goes, I'll give it a 6.5 out of 10. So a really solid watch, and one I quite enjoy rewatching. It's not one I would skip if I'm watching these movies again. So there you have it. I quite enjoy it. Far from perfect, but as I said, a solid watch. So that's Halloween 4, and you can let me know your thoughts on the film in the comments below. And yeah, like and subscribe, all that stuff. Let me know what you think about this Halloween compared to the previous 3. Where would you rank it? Is it one of your favourite? Is it one of your least favourite? Let me know. And I will return soon with Halloween 5. But before I go, I just want to say it's been a while since I've been doing movies. I've been focusing mainly on TV because it's quite a busy time at the moment for TV. But I will get back into films, reviewing films in the coming week. Actually, I've got another horror review coming up, which should be up hopefully tomorrow, and that is a 70s film called Beyond the Door, an Exorcist style movie. So I'll be reviewing that soon. And also, on a slightly different note, I will be reviewing a new teen drama called Stella and the Spades, which is a new release, which is on Amazon Prime now. So I'm going to check that out and have a review of that in the coming days. But thanks for listening to this video, and I'll see you guys soon. Goodbye.